The wisdom of saying yes to reconnection in your marriage is something nobody warns you that you'll need, because when you're standing there on your wedding day, you just assume the connection you have right then is going to stay there on its own. In this video, we're going to walk you through why that connection fades, even between two people who genuinely still love each other, what pulls couples apart without either of you really noticing, and the simple, specific things that brought us back together after 23 years with autism and ADHD being part of the picture. And we're going to tell you about the point where we wondered if our marriage might have been a mistake, plus the one small thing that changed all of it around.
If you've ever looked across the room at the person you're married and felt more like roommates than partners, and look, I've had roommates that I adored. A couple are still even my closest friends, but it's not the same. This one is for you. Stick with us all the way to the end because we're going to give you a few things you can actually start doing tonight.
And if you're new here, I'm Ryan. I'm on the autistic spectrum, and Lori and I have been married for 23 years. So everything we talk about here comes from what we've actually lived through, not from a degree hanging on a wall.
And I'm Lori, Ryan's wife. I have ADHD and perimenopause, which means I bring big feelings and perpetually lost things. And he brings a one-track mind and spreadsheets.
We've had to learn most of this the hard way, and we're going to share what exactly worked for us.
Here's something we've heard from couples whose kids are starting to fly the nest, and it sadly makes complete sense every time. They become empty nesters. They finally look up from all of the school runs and the laundry and the endless snack negotiations. They look across the room at their husband or wife, and the thought that goes through their heads is, wait, who even are you? That's what happens when connection gets neglected for long enough. A mom can pour so much energy and time into managing the kids, the household, or a husband or wife into their careers that one day the job is done. She looks over at her spouse and the connection has dwindled so far that she's looking at a stranger. And reconnection has to happen because seasons happen. There are stretches of life when work genuinely has to take a bigger chunk of your time. For us, Ryan chose to go back and finish his higher education so he could provide better for our family. And for that whole season, his time got pulled towards other things. What helped me was realizing that those seasons are completely normal and that we can reconnect and refresh the relationship on the other side of them. There's this old idea that if you love someone, you set them free. And if they truly love you, they'll always come back to reconnect with you. It's not just the big seasons either. We reconnected in small ways almost every single day. Routines and little bits of structure are actually how we find our way back to each other. With my ADHD brain, that daily connection really does matter because honestly, when Ryan is out of sight, he can also be very much out of mind, which, to be fair, is very different from when we were dating, when he was my entire hyperfocus and I was his. But I'm sure I'm still always on his mind now, right? Right?
I'm going to plead the fifth on that one.
That's what I thought. The other thing I had to make peace with is that it is completely normal to sometimes feel lonely or undervalued or a little emotionally distant from your partner. Every relationship has an ebb and a flow. When we were younger, I used to spiral about it. He's not paying attention to me. Oh no, maybe this whole marriage thing is a mistake. But as the years went on, I realized the rough patches come and the reconciliation comes too. And we almost always come out of each hard stretch stronger than we went into it. So if you're sitting in one of those low spots right now, I really want you to hear this. Feeling disconnected does not mean your marriage is broken. It usually just means you're due to reconnect.
And on that note, if you want a simple, no pressure way to start reconnecting tonight, we put together a free guide called Reconnect in 10 Minutes Tonight. It's a short, structured check-in you can do together. And the whole point is that it takes the guesswork out of it. No big heavy talk required. I'll drop the link down in the description below, so grab it whenever you're ready. Now, I want to be honest about my side of this because for a long time, I was the one creating most of the distance, and I didn't even see it happening. There is nothing in my life that matters more to me than being connected to Lori. When I'm disconnected from her, everything else becomes gray. Work, hobbies, all of it becomes bleaker and less enjoyable. And when you're connected, when you're in sync and on the same page, everything is brighter and I'm genuinely happier. That's the payoff of being connected to your spouse. And it was also exactly what I was putting at risk. There were specific things I did that drained the connection between us. I wouldn't check in with her during a busy day full of my own to-do lists. I was too direct with her, which is an autistic trait of mine. I wasn't empathetic and I was often critical. Every one of those negative interactions is a withdrawal from what I think of as our connection bank account. In my faith, men are taught to treat women, and especially their wives, with the utmost kindness and consideration. And for a lot of years, I let my autistic tendencies run my behavior instead. I was too demanding. I was too critical when something didn't get done the way I wanted it done. I was too blunt. I wasn't thinking about how she felt when I was focused on what I needed to get finished. And it added up. Our relationship deteriorated far enough that at one point, divorce honestly seemed like it might be the better option. It wasn't just that I felt disconnected from her. I had genuinely negative feelings toward her. I kept thinking, why can't she just do this one thing or that one thing and make everything better? I was getting bitter. I felt alone. I couldn't see any way out that kept the two of us together. So here's the part I think most people need to hear. I got into a dark place, and after a while, that dark place started to feel almost comfortable. I'd sink into those brief depressive states, sometimes only a day at a time, but very real, where I felt sad and heavy, and I didn't want to talk to anyone or be near anyone. I just wanted to hide and disappear. I feel everything more intensely because of how I'm wired, and my relationship with Lori runs in a direct line with my mental health. I feel it hard when things are bad, and I feel it just as much when things are good. So when we were at odds, it pulled me down further than most people would expect. And the dangerous thing about that comfortable dark place is that you stop wanting to leave it. But the truth I eventually learned is that getting out was a lot closer and a lot easier than I felt from the inside.
So, Ryan being vulnerable and understanding and taking accountability for his feelings or his place in this whole thing is pretty strong. And from my side, I didn't always know that's what was going on inside of him. He'd go quiet and disappear, and I'd be over here wondering what I'd done. That's the cruel thing about the stuff. You're both hurting and you're both guessing. Unfortunately for Ryan, I also thought, well, I can't change me to make him happy. So if he's pulling away, I wasn't going to step in closer. I went into my own corner to develop myself without him. As much as that was healthy for my own self, it wasn't necessarily great for our relationship or for Ryan.
If any of that sounds like where you are right now, I need you to know it is not the end of your marriage. It's a low point, and low points have exits, even when you can't see them yet. And if you're the partner on the outside of that, the one watching someone you love go quiet and disappear with no idea what to say, we made something for exactly that moment. It's a free guide called Shutdown Recovery Script, and it gives you the exact words to use when one of you gets overwhelmed and shuts down.
Honestly, it's the one thing that I wish I had back when Ryan would go dark and I was left guessing.
The link is waiting for you down in the description below. So here's a turning point I promised you at the start. There was a stretch where there was a tension between Lori and me, and I genuinely didn't know why. We'd had a few conversations about our relationship before that, but I'd walked into every one of them with a blaming attitude. Here's what you're doing wrong, and nothing ever actually got resolved. What changed is that I made a conscious decision to walk in with a completely different attitude. Instead of, here's what you need to fix, it became, what can I do better? I asked Laura if we could talk, and then just said to her, what can I do better? She paused, she thought about it, and she gave me an honest answer. I honestly can't even remember the specific answer now, but I do remember the moment I asked her that question. The whole mood of the conversation changed. Asking, what can I do better, pushes the blame out of the room and opens up an actual path forward instead of the two of you just pushing further apart.
Now, there could be a danger of this line of questioning. Asking, what can I do better, shouldn't be an invitation for the other partner to respond with a blaming, here's what you need to fix answer. My response was actually more questions. What do you think you would like to do better? What do you think is causing some heartache? And how do you think I can help?
Now, here's the part that genuinely surprised me, and this is the thing I teased at the beginning of our video. I had tried to change my behavior before and it really never stuck. But this time I committed to it and I was shocked at how little I actually had to do to help Lori feel more emotionally connected and loved. I started checking in with her during the day. I started leaving a chocolate on her side of the bed, not as a big one-time grand gesture, but every single day. So she'd find one waiting for her each time she came home. That's it. That's a level of effort we're talking about. I'm still as busy as I have ever been, and I still protect our Friday date nights like they're sacred. But those small, daily, deliberate touch points did more for us than any big grand gesture ever did or could.
And it really was the small stuff. That daily chocolate, sometimes it was just what I needed, and sometimes I could collect them for later. It wasn't that I needed the chocolate, it was that finding one there day after day told me that he'd been thinking about me when I wasn't even in the room. And for an out of sight, out of mind brain like mine, having that little reminder shows up consistently as a genuine big deal.
So if you take that one thing from my side of this video, let it be this. You very likely do not need some dramatic overhaul. You need one sincere question and a few small, consistent actions.
Okay, so let's get really practical because we promised you things you could start doing tonight. These are the actual ways we reconnected, and not one of them requires a weekend away or a big budget. The first one is to set aside time for each other every single day. And yes, schedule it if you have to. We literally do this. Ryan has a cutoff time in the evening where the work stops, and after that, we have time that's just for us. Whether that's talking or cuddling or watching a show together, scheduling it sounds deeply unromantic, but it means connection. It isn't some surprise demand I'm springing on him out of nowhere, which his brain hates. And it isn't something we just vaguely hope happens, which my brain forgets. The second one is to make touch a priority. And I mean non sexual closeness that kind of settles our nervous systems. If I notice Ryan getting tense out in public, I'll just put my hand on his back or his shoulder, and it generally calms down both of us. Now, full confession, I'm not a natural touchy person, so I actually have to consciously remind myself to do this and not to be weird about it.
Well, she's occasionally a little weird about.
I said what I said. And moving on, the third one is to start noticing the little things you appreciate about your partner and then actually say them out loud to them. A friend reminded me recently that when you think something nice about someone, that thought was never meant to stay in your head. It was meant for them. So say it. And if that doesn't come naturally to you, you practice giving compliments until it does. I'll be honest. There was a stretch where our 5-year-old was better at telling me I looked pretty than Ryan was.
That is unfortunately true, but I have since improved.
Yes, he has. And those tiny little moments of reconnection really do add up. And the last one is to find some common interests again, ideally something brand new that you both can be beginners at doing together.
And that last one is actually a huge part of our story. I was online doing my own thing on YouTube, but Lori is the one who had the idea to start bringing her into it, and it's given us something to build together. Before that, I'd be off working on projects she had no knowledge of, and she'd feel left out of the loop. Now, we write these scripts and record these videos as a team, and that regular shared work has done more for our connection than I expected. I also want to talk about physical intimacy at this point. When we were disconnected, that part of our marriage dried up, and because physical closeness is generally how I feel connected to Lori, that made me feel even more alone and resentful. What I've learned is that when I consistently meet her emotional needs first, the physical connection follows on its own. It was ever something I could demand. It was something that came back once the rest of it came back.
So pick one, just one of those 4, and try it tonight. You don't have to do all of them at once. You don't have to make it weird, but just try.
We generally want to hear from you in the comments. After everything we just shared, here's our question. What is one small thing your partner has done that made you feel reconnected, even on a hard day? Drop in the comments below. We read every one, and your answer might just be the exact idea another couple needs to see today. And one last thing before we point you to what to watch next. If you know something feels off between you and your spouse, but you can't quite put your finger on it, We built a free quiz for exactly that. It's our relationship friction quiz. And in just a couple minutes, it helps you pinpoint where the tension in your relationship is coming from. Then it points you to a free customized guide for that specific thing. It works for any couple, neurodivergent or not.
Honestly, back when I was so quick to assume the worst instead of figuring out what was actually going on between us, I could have used this tool.
You'll find the link in the description below. Now that you know Reconnection is really built from small, consistent things rather than grand gestures, you might be wondering how to handle it when the disconnection gets tangled up with intimacy and boundaries, because that's where a lot of couples get stuck. That's exactly what we get into in this video right here on the wisdom of saying yes to boundaries in marriage, and it pairs really well with what you just learned. So go watch that one next.
Thank you for watching, and remember, even neurodivergent couples can make relationships work.